So we're in the Executive's Guide to E-commerce series, and today we're going to look at the nuances about some of these concepts. In fact, in this entire series, the goal here is to look at all the concepts inside of the marketing arena and get the technical specialist jargon out of it, and really kind of help you as a leader understand how to implement these different marketing tactics, these different e-commerce tactics in your strategy, so that they're all playing together in a beautiful symphony, and so that you can use that to actually grow your business and have a balanced approach with it. And so today we're talking about the paid search aspect, paid search marketing. We've gone through growth marketing. We've talked about paid ads in general. And now we're going to dig into paid search. And, why are we talking about paid search? Well, paid search is different than all of the other paid channels. And I've talked about how the journey of the customer changes, and how all those channels are different steps in that journey. So they have different jobs. And with paid search, it's no different. In fact, paid search is one of the unique channels. It's unlike any other channel that we've ever had in the past because it has intent, and none of the other channels that we've ever had in the past have intent. They're all interruptive or relational. And so if we judge paid search the same way that we do other channels, we're going to misuse that channel. We're not going to be able to optimize it and get the best results out of it, and we're ultimately going to lose momentum. And so let's look at how paid search ads are different from other paid advertising. Well, paid search ads, just for the sake of definition, are ads on search engines, right? So Google, Bing, etc. Even YouTube. YouTube is, I believe, the second is the second biggest search engine, right? So YouTube would be considered the same for the sake of this. And these ads pop up based on what the user's searching for. They're part of the intent category that we've talked about in the past, and they're unlike anything that we've had in the past because all past channels were interruptive or relational, and the intent idea is unique and it's powerful. It means someone wants an answer for something. They're looking for an answer for something. And you have the opportunity to serve an ad at theoretically the best time possible, right? That's not the case in Facebook. That's not the case with TV. That's not the case with any other channel, right? In Facebook, TV, etc., a commercial is an interruption, right? It's a nuisance. With paid search, your ad has the opportunity to be the answer, the thing they're looking for at that time. And that's really, really powerful. And so because of that, this channel is really, really powerful. By the way, this is also why your search engine optimization is important and really powerful, because your organic results, your organic ranking in search engines for those same search terms that you're buying in the paid side, those organic results matter as well, because as someone searching, they're finding those results in a search engine, and it has a lot of power right there. So that's something to invest in as well. So that's kind of by way of definition and kind of looking through how we use paid search. Now let's look at what I'll say is 7 things to keep in mind when you're using paid search in your marketing strategy. Okay, so these are 7 things that I think it's really important to consider. When you're looking at, hey, should I invest in this? Should I cut this? Should I invest even more into it? Is it working? Is it not? These are 7 things to consider. All right, so the first one is simply use it. Paid search is important. It's unique. It's unlike any other channel, like we just mentioned. And so if you're not using it at all, you're absent in a critical step of a customer's journey, right? You're absent in the people that are searching for a solution to the problem. And even if you have organic results for that solution, you're absent in the first part of the page, because the top section of all the search results pages are ads. And so you really need to be using it. That's the first thing to consider. The second thing is it's more expensive per click, but it's also more valuable per click. And so because it's not an interruptive channel, because it's not an interruption, your ad is not interrupting somebody's path, right? They're not trying to watch a video and you're sticking something in front of them. Because that's not the case, if someone clicks on your ad, it's very likely that they want that they think that ad might solve their problem, that your product might solve their problem that they're actually on the journey to figure out. And so it may be more expensive, but it is much more valuable if you're using it the right way. And so that gets us to our third thing. The third thing to consider is not to trick people. All right, because of the above two things we just mentioned, if you trick people, you're only hurting yourself, right? Because your ad is going to be more expensive per click, and you have the opportunity for your product to solve the problem of the customer. So if you trick them into clicking it, it's going to be expensive for you and it's not going to solve their problem. And so it's really pointless to do. So don't trick people. Number 4, it's not infinite. Okay, so this is something that a lot of leaders may not always understand. And it's a hard concept to think about because a lot of times people put it in the same category as paid social, like paid Facebook ads and those kind of things. And on paid Facebook ads or paid social ads, there's essentially an infinite amount of ads that you can put out there. You can spend essentially an infinite amount of money on these platforms because there's so much traffic and there's so many people on the platform in many different ad types, etc. With paid search, there isn't that infinite, that kind of close to infinite amount of a budget that you can spend. And so paid search is based on the number of searches that people are making for a certain term. And so there's only the maximum of the number of searches that people search for that thing. After that, there's no more. And so if a search term is really relevant for you, you want to capture as much of that as you can. But if it's also if it's working for you, it's not like you can just turn it up infinitely, right? There's a maximum, there's a cap on it. And so that's the fourth thing to consider. The fifth one is buy your branded terms. Now, we go deep onto what branded terms are and why you should buy them in other articles and videos, but essentially it's important to just say that you should be buying these. Now, a lot of purists, or some business owners may think, well, why should I have to buy my own name on Google? Shouldn't I just show up for my brand name? And maybe in a perfect world, yes, you should, but that's not the case. You don't just show up, and so if you're not buying those terms, you just leave it to other people to buy those terms, and you won't likely show up, and other people, some of your competition, will actually show up instead of you, which is really, really bad, especially when people are searching for your name. And so there are 3 good reasons to buy your branded terms. One is they're typically cheap. They're less expensive than other terms because you own them and they're yours, and there aren't that many searches around them. And so they're typically less expensive. Number 2, they typically convert at a high rate because people are actually searching for your name. So when your ad pops up, they convert at a high rate. Yes, you're paying for that click, but at least you're getting the person that's looking for you. Number 3, they're limited, right? So because the searches for you are not infinite, unless you're a brand like Apple, there likely aren't millions of people searching for your name. So there aren't that many searches that you can buy. There aren't that many ads that you can place. It's dependent on how many times people are searching for you. And so you should just generally max out that budget unless you're just such a big brand that you have millions of searches, per hour for your name. And then the last thing, I said 3 reasons, but 4 reasons, you need to defend your brand. So if you're not buying those terms, someone else is, especially if you're in a highly competitive market. And when someone's looking for you and they find somebody else, that's a really bad thing. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, this is number 6. Be on Google Shopping. So if you're an e-commerce brand, you need to be in Google Shopping. We go into this more in detail, but essentially it's easy, it's pretty cheap, and it's easy to get started. Now there are ways to maximize that and optimize it, and there are more complicated sides of Google Shopping, but it's easy to start. It's relatively inexpensive. You should be there, because if you're not, they're just lost sales. You're just not showing up for no reason. All right, the 7th thing and the last thing is be on YouTube. Okay, so YouTube is the number 2 search engine. And so you have a lot of intent opportunities on YouTube. And we talk about how to create YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, or YouTube ads in other videos. Also the other side of YouTube is, 1, there's intent-based opportunities. 2, for the in-stream ads, the ones that are interrupting someone's viewing of a video, those will create brand searches. And we've talked about this strategy before, but when you create brand awareness, more people are going to search for you in the search engines, and at least that's what we see all the time. And so you want to make sure that your brand ads are optimized and ready to go, because when you do YouTube advertising and other brand awareness advertising, it's likely going to increase the searches for your brand name, and you want to make sure you're capturing those as well. And we can go into that. We go into that more detail in other places. And so just kind of to summarize a few things, like what are the most important things to keep in mind as you're tackling paid search ads? Well, I think the most important thing is to not get caught up in all the jargon and the idea that one channel is performing, so you want to only spend money there. It just doesn't work like that, right? Your paid search might be performing really, really, really well, and you may not be able to increase that at all because there's no more searches. Or your paid social may be doing really, really well, and you might think, hey, I want to put all my budget over there and not do paid search or not do Google Shopping or something like that. And then you're going to have all your eggs in one basket, and you're not going to be well diversified. And the truth is, they all play together in the customer journey, at least for most brands and for most customers. And so how do we measure the success of our paid ad strategy, our paid search strategy? The first one is ROI, not necessarily ROAS, but ROI. We want to make sure that the return on the investment is there, and it's a little bit more complicated than just return on ad spend, because return on ad spend isn't taking into account the fact that there's a website attached to it, and there's a conversion rate, and there's pricing, and there's psychology, and there's all these other things. We want to know that there's ROI attached to our paid search strategy. The second one is conversion rate by channel, right? And so we want to look at conversion rate on our e-commerce store by marketing channel. And in paid search, you want to look at the conversion rate just for paid search. Cost per acquisition is something to make sure that is in check. That should be on par with your cost per acquisition for other marketing channels, if not less. Click-through rate for your ads. If you're showing for a certain search term and people aren't clicking on it, then your ad copy may be wrong, or your product may be you may be bidding on terms that people are not interested in your product for, and you may have to reconsider that. And then lastly, you can look at Google Trends. As your awareness marketing increases, you'll likely see your Google Trends ranking increase. Those are searches for your brand name or for any brand name on Google. And that's a good way to measure how your awareness marketing and then how that converts over to your search marketing is working. And so real quick in conclusion, as we wrap this up, just remember that search is different than the rest of the paid channels, and understand how you can use it to grow and improve all the other channels. Now, if you need help with your e-commerce marketing strategy, that's what we do. And so reach out to us. We'd love to help you.